Brent Venables had high praise for several starters, one on offense, one on defense, getting ready for Temple. Let's discuss coming up next on Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The Oklahoma Sooners open the season against the Temple Owls on Friday night at 6 p.m. We've got a couple starters in the lineup that weren't necessarily projected to be. Let's start on the offensive side of the ball. Brennan Thompson earned a starting spot in Oklahoma's initial depth chart release. I think this is a really good sign for his development. Yes, Oklahoma's down guys. Jayden Gibson's out for the season. Nick Anderson's been dinged up. He's day-to-day. Angelo Anthony's still working his way back. But Brent Venables said Angelo Anthony was basically good to go. Like, he's got no limitations right now. So the fact that Brennan Thompson is in the starting lineup, I think that's huge, man, for him as a player, but it also adds another big-time speed element to Oklahoma's offense.
Yeah, he's dealt with so many injuries over the last, couple of years, even in his time in Texas or whatnot. So the concerns were, can he stay healthy? Well, we got to see a little bit of him. He dealt with hammy in situations last season, and then he got there in that Arizona game and caught that touchdown. And we're like, okay, let's get some more of those deep plays. Then he got a concussion. And so then he was out for the rest of that game. So you're like, okay, what does it look like? Well, as you mentioned, Venables was really talking him up at his press conference on Monday. And one thing that he mentioned that really got my attention is that he said he had the most total yardage of any wide receiver on the team. That to me is huge. Now, granted, we knew that Nick Anderson wasn't really practicing because he's been, quote unquote, nicked up, no pun intended. Angelo Anthony's coming off the knee situation. Jalil Farouk had a foot problem. And then we lost Jayden Jackson with the knee injury for the season. But someone stepped up. I think that's the thing that gets me is someone stepped up. And we know that Jackson Arnold and Brennan Thompson has some chemistry because, again, we watched him launch that thing to him against Arizona. So for me, I am excited to see that we've got a threat on the outside that's just fast. But one other thing was mentioned by Venables, John, that I think that really jumped out to me. He says that Brennan can run the entire route tree. So we think about him as a go guy, just go and just, hey, he out there somewhere and just throw it, right? Well, in Venables' minds and Emmett Jones' minds is he's running all the routes. And so he becomes even more of a threat because now you don't know if he's going to go deep, if he's going to hit you with a curl, out, in, drag, any type of mesh concept. You don't know what you're going to get out of him, which does nothing but open up everybody else on the field. So, John, I think he may have a chance to get some big plays done in the first game.
It's Brennan Thompson season. He's done the work, and I think that's the thing that often gets underlooked or undervalued is the development piece of college football. Agreed. You just kind of expect this linear projection or progression for everybody, or you expect guys to come in ready-made a lot of times. That's not generally the case. Generally, guys come to college and have a lot to work on. Venables mentioned with Brennan Thompson, this dude was an athlete, played a lot of quarterback, mostly ran track, and didn't really get developed in high school to be a do-it-all wide receiver. Mm-hmm. And so now he's undergoing the developmental aspect of his game. We saw it with Tyler Guyton, right? You develop in college. You develop a lot and can develop a lot. And we've seen Emmett Jones in just a year and a half's time do some really good work with some of the guys under his tutelage. Jayden Jackson is one of those guys. JJ Hester, another one. Like, we're starting to see some of these guys develop and now become big-time contributors for this team. Nick Anderson was a guy that went from playing very, very little to 10 touchdowns. Yep. That doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't happen by God's gift of natural talent. Now, a lot of that is God's gift of natural talent, but it takes work and it takes development. It takes practice. It takes, repetition. It takes going through all of the detailed developmental process that your wide receiver coach has for you. And that's just a great aspect of what Emmett Jones brings to the table. And so Brennan Thompson is able to go out there and run a full route tree. Dude, that is going to be a big time threat to opposing defenses. And then you throw in the Deion Burks element. Now you have two big time speed elements that can win all over the field. Dude, coaching against them is going to be a nightmare because you're not going to know, okay, who's going to be the deep threat on this play? Okay, am I going to get dueling drags where they're both crossing over the middle of the defense, and you're trying to keep up with that speed. And Jackson Arnold is just like, okay, whichever one pops open first is getting the ball. They're going to be yard after catch machines. Like, these guys are going to be putting so much pressure and stress on the defense, because the defenses that they're going to be going up against are good, but they're not going to be like Brennan Thompson track speed fast. Right. And so huge. The other guy that was mentioned with Jayden Jackson, and we talked a lot about Jayden Jackson on the show, but Brent Venables went into a further discussion about Jayden and what he means for this team and why he's developed so much.
Yeah, he really dug into the consistency and the hard work that he came day one. And it's funny because Jaden Jackson will be the first freshman to start on the defensive line since Tommy Harris.
I mentioned sometime last year that David Stone and Jaden Jackson could be for this team what guys like Gerald McCoy and Tommy Harris were for those teams. And I got laughed at.
You did. I know. I totally see. I've synced the comments. I've synced the words y'all have said to this man. I've synced all the hate that you gave him and the vitriol you threw at him. I totally expect all of y'all to apologize. Because Brent Venables basically said something in a similar manner, right? He talked about the consistency of work and how he came in ready to play. I mean, he's size-wise, he's listed at 312 now, right? He was in the 280s when he first got here. So he's put on the weight naturally. And obviously it was Schmitty weight, so it's good weight. But he's also still keeping his moves, his skill. He doesn't have a problem with eating doubles. He can get around doubles. He was just causing havoc, which granted is a really good thing based upon how you would scheme it. He's going to be someone that's going to stand out. And my favorite part was after practice yesterday, Jayden was asked about it and he was like, I'm humbled and excited and everything, but that position is not secured yet, right? There's no guarantee I'm starting all season long. There's no guarantee the starting spot is mine. He's more so pointing out, I need to go out there, put my head down and work. Everything you Sooner fans ask for, it's players like that, he's kind of giving it to you. And I've told this to somebody not too long ago. There was a reason why Texas wanted him. There was a reason why Texas was in the running for him. Don't let them gaslight you and pretend like this was a non-factor. No, they wanted him because he would start on their roster as well because he is that talented.
Yeah, anytime you see a freshman come in and even push for a starting role, I think is significant. I think it shows the work ethic. And Brent Venables mentioned it, the maturity. He's been about the right things since showing up to camp. And when you have the talent and the skill set that he has, and you put the work in, and you've got the mentality, and you've got strength and conditioning coach like Jerry Schmidt working with you as well, it provides the opportunity for all of it to kind of come together in a beautiful masterpiece where I think Jayden Jackson is going to be a significant player on this team this year. Whether he starts every game, we'll see, but it would not surprise me to see him have a lot of snaps, 300 snaps or more easily this year. Now they'll rotate defensive tackles, and Brent Venables also made mention that nobody's worked harder than David Stone. So don't take Stone not starting as any kind of slight against him. He said he's got some things he's got to continue to refine. Jayden Jackson came in technically really, really sound.
Yeah.
And I think
from
day one. And I think that is a piece of this that I think we can kind of miss sometimes, is the technical aspects of the game. Playing nose tackle is a really, really difficult position. Playing defensive tackle is a really, really difficult position because you're responsible not just for getting to the quarterback or getting to the running back, but for occupying gaps. And when you're an interior defensive line player, you have to occupy those two gaps, and you can't just guess. If you guess wrong, it blows up the entire defensive scheme. And so if Jayden Jackson is showing the mental maturity to be able to go in and be disciplined as a defensive tackle and show proper instincts and show proper gap control, dude, that's huge for where his trajectory is going. Like, I mean, he's going to start as a freshman, but who knows where he ends up. Dominic Williams said he could be an All-American.
Yeah, I'm listening to Dominic Williams whenever he says that too. That intrigued the heck out of me when he said, I think that this kid's going to probably be, he can be not only a freshman All-American, but an All-American. And we watched Dominic Williams be a freshman All-American. So if he's seeing something similar to himself or even better, I'm not going to question that at all.
And that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in and being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports, myself at John 9 Williams. The show is at Locked On Sooners on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, X/Twitter, whatever you call it. We are available at Locked On Sooners. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and over on YouTube. Also hit that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. We'll catch you then. Boomer
Sooner.